is a virtual communication expert, and she often provides one-on-one coaching on effective communication and executive presence. She hones verbal, nonverbal, and listening skills and helps clients write powerful resumes and build stories to sell themselves or their products and their services. And she has a wonderful website, speakingskillfully.com, or you can check her out on LinkedIn. We'll see if we can grab that link for you and throw it into the chat area. So welcome, Peggy. I know that we've got some great information from you today for everyone to share. We want everyone, please know that we want this to be an interactive session. So that's one of the reasons why Peggy really wanted you to have your cameras on, so that we can help guide you through this, actually, so that Peggy can help guide you through this. And feel free at any time to chat in questions, and perhaps toward the end we can have you unmute and ask your questions as well. This is for you. We want to make sure that you walk away with something that you can use today. So welcome, Peggy. Really happy to have you here today. Would you like to just dive in? Can I ask you some questions?
Of course, I'd love to. And thank you, Elizabeth and the Ferguson Library for inviting me. And thank all of you for coming to hear this talk. I do believe, to reiterate what Heather said, that you will be leaving with some tips and things that you can immediately use to up your virtual and professional skills virtually, as well as your executive presence. So thank you. Heather, what would you like me to talk about?
Well, I think that it's really important. And one of the reasons that we were talking about, asking you questions and bringing you on in the very beginning is that in this kind of disconnected land, we want to make sure that we connect with people as much as possible. So how can you start off by giving us some ideas on how to connect virtually, and even maybe just jumping into what does a virtual handshake look like? Is there such a thing?
Okay, thank you. And you're right. I think the first thing I'm going to do, and the first tip of the day, if you will notice my name and Heather's name, we don't just have our name, we actually have our email address. So in order to do that, all you do is take your cursor and put it over the area where your name is. And if you click on it, you will get, if you click on right click, you will get a drop down menu, and one of them says rename, and you can just put in your email address. And this way, when you're on a call, whether it's a one-on-one call where you're just meeting somebody, or whether it's a group situation like this, somebody can see you and see your email and just quickly jot it down. They don't have to go to the chat. They don't have to look anything up. And so that's a great way to start to connect. So that's tip number one. Tip number two has to do with, yes, Heather, there is a virtual handshake. Before COVID, when we met somebody, the first thing we probably did was shake their hand, whether it was a first meeting or whether it was a follow-up meeting. The reason we did that is when we shake hands with somebody, our bodies secrete oxytocin. It's the trust hormone. It's a way to build a connection. Well, now we have to kind of get our oxytocin revved up without that handshake, and do it virtually. So what should you do? Number one, look into that camera. You want to have eye contact with the person that you're seeing. You might want to lean in a little bit, smile, wave, let them know that you are connecting, are happy to see them, that you are there. Your image is so important, and how you look, that you're connecting with them and that they see you, is really part of that virtual handshake.
That's great. Thank you. These are, she's going to give us a plethora of tips that we can use right away. So if I see people writing down, that's fantastic. That's part of this as well. So should you prepare for a Zoom call? Is it necessary?
Absolutely. We should prepare for, I hope people prepared when they were meeting somebody face to face. If you're having a networking conversation, if you're going to a meeting or seeing a client, whatever it is, I hope that you are preparing well. On Zoom, besides whatever preparation you always did, we need to be prepared on how we're going to look and how we're going to sound on the screen. You want to do that, going back to our virtual handshake, before you ever click join the meeting. And I'm going to show you what you do and how you do it. And I have a couple of slides. I'm not using any others, but I'm going to use some slides so I can show you all how you can prepare before you ever click, before anyone sees you. So the first thing you're going to do is when you were waiting for this call, you saw that said waiting for the host to start the meeting. Usually you don't just get to click right through, and I'll give you a tip just in case you do. If you see on the screen, there's something that says test audio, computer audio. What you want to do is click on that. And when you click on that, the next slide, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see on the left, you're going to see an entire drop down, and you can move your cursor and click on video and audio. And each of those, the video will actually let you see how you look. It'll let you see what the lighting looks like, because you may think, and we'll talk about that, you may think it's great. Well, you'll see if it is or isn't. You can see your background. You can also see yourself. Are you sitting up straight? How do you look? Is what you're wearing, is it a stripe or something that you say, I don't really like how that looks? So you can see what's going on. You can also check your audio, and that will make sure there's a button to click and you can actually see if the audio is working and getting through. Then let's look to the middle part of the screen. I know a lot of people don't know about this. There, where it says my video, there are two important boxes that you may want to check. One, touch up my appearance. It actually does make you look clearer. And so I would do that. And second one, adjust for low light. So sometimes the lighting in your room, no matter how good light, different kinds of lights you have, and we'll talk about those, you still need a boost. And if you click on adjust for low lighting, the computer itself will adjust. Okay, so thank you. That's great. And those are the things that you can do. I want to see a show of hands, or you can put it in the chat box. How many of you before every meeting check your video and check what you look like? Raise your hand.
I never do. Wow.
Okay. Well, guess what? Now you know how to do it. And I want all of you to promise me you'll do it.
Yes.
Good. Two things. Number one, I say every time, because the lighting changes from hour to hour. And you may even change if you got up from your computer and sat back down, your chair is different. Maybe you wiggled your computer a little bit. Every time you want to check. That's number one. Number two, I said some of you might feel like when you go to this call that you're just going to automatically show up, and you don't want to have to be fidgeting around with your camera and everything. So just before the call, you can also go to Zoom and click start a meeting. That meeting is with yourself, but it's going to let you see all those things. It's going to let you check your audio. So now there's no excuse, whether you, for what reason, that you don't check yourself before a meeting. Okay, Heather, anything else?
Sure. Well, there are a lot of things we want to know everything there is to know about how to make those connections and stand out. Maybe it's in a job interview, maybe it's a sales call. There are a lot of reasons why people are having these types of calls right now. So let's talk about, so we've got the camera. We know that the camera is really important. Are there specific tips as it relates to the type of camera? If you're using a webcam or external cameras, or anything that you can share with us that might help people in that arena?
Okay, well, number one, look into that camera when you're talking. That is probably the most difficult thing that we all had to adjust to when we started using Zoom. It is our natural tendency to look at the screen and look at the person you're talking to. Isn't that what we do face to face? We look at them, we give them eye contact. No, on the computer, that doesn't work. I'm just going to show you what happens. I'm looking into the computer. I know that all of you feel that I'm talking to you. Heather, don't you feel like I'm really looking at you and talking to you?
Yeah, it's great, but you're probably not seeing everybody, right? You're looking at
No, I'm not.
the camera.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to just show you. Now I'm looking down at the screen and I'm looking at all of you. I bet you can all feel the difference.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. If you're on a call with somebody and you're looking at them and you think you're doing the right thing, you're looking at them. Guess what? You're not, they don't feel like you're looking at them. So look into the camera. I know there are two problems that everybody tells me. Number one, I want to see what the people are doing. I get so much from nonverbal cues when I'm in the room with somebody. All right, once you practice looking into the camera, there's a dance. You look into the camera and you kind of look down at people, but continue to go back and look into the camera. That's why Zoom, if you really do it right, can be really tiring. Having to spend your time sitting up straight and looking into that camera, into this blank little hole, is tiring. All right, you say, okay, I try, but I forget. What am I going to do? Here's what you do. Take a little Post-it. I don't know, whatever you want. Draw an arrow, say camera, look, whatever cue, it's only for you. Put it on your screen and point it to the camera. So when you look down at the screen, you're going to see the Post-it and it's going to remind you. No one else, if I have a Post-it on my screen, you can't see it. So therefore, this is your trick for yourself to help you remember. And Heather asked about cameras. I don't know brands. I have a Logitech, but I'm going to tell you as an external camera, what's most important is you need to find out where the camera is on your device. When we first started on Zoom, I realized that the camera, which I almost never used or very infrequently, was at the bottom of the screen. So what did I do? I had to look down to look into the camera. Now people were, first of all, they saw me looking down, or if I raised it, it was like they were looking up my nose. It was not the best view. So very quickly I realized the answer was an external camera that I could put onto my laptop, and I can actually slide it across. So if I want to have it more over somebody in a group, I can help my eyes be able to go up and down more easily.
That's an interesting one. I love that. And I love the sticky note. I think that's really important because it's really just, it's changing a pattern, right? We have this habit of looking at the person and we're thinking that we're making that connection, but that's about us, right? But when you make the point of looking into the camera, that's about them and the perception that they're going to have of you. So I love those suggestions. One of the other things that I found is really, really important is lighting. Do you have any suggestions, Peggy, for people to improve their lighting?
Sure. I will tell you that my husband teases me because since COVID, I have bought more different kinds of lighting to help me on Zoom. There is, and I will show you this, there are all different sizes of things they call ring lights. And this one's a very small one that you can actually clip right onto the computer. They're not expensive. I have a bigger one, which I can't show you, that's behind my computer, because again, you want to light up your face. I'm going to just show you. Well, maybe I don't want to show you because I might not get back. I was going to show you. I have a window in my room. And if I was facing the window, well, I'll take a risk and I can get back to this. See, if I did that, this gives shadows. You don't want that. And you don't think about it. People think, oh, that light's coming in. Isn't that great? You don't want the light from the window if it's behind you. You want it in front of you. I have another light that looks almost like an old-fashioned desk lamp with an arm that I can move and rotate to help with my lighting. That being said, if you don't want to buy lights, get some lamps that you have. It might take more than one. You might want to put one on either side of your computer so that depending on where it is, it might work in front of your computer or on either side. You have to play around with it. Another thing that, another tip is if the lighting still doesn't work, sometimes you can get better light if you unscrew the shade and take the shade off. So now you have this great light that is possibly going to be more like the light from a light ring rather than the lamp, that because the shade is there to soften the light and to give you really less light because it's more on ambiance than lighting up your screen. So those are some easy tips. I can tell you if you do like LED lighting or lighting for computers and go off to Amazon or B&H, there will be so many things, and they range in price from probably $30 to hundreds of dollars. So you can fit it into your budget. You can fit it into your decor.
Yeah, these are great, Peggy. I think that the main thing is that the big takeaway here is that the lighting has to be in front of you, not behind you. And you know what I love? I love that I'm seeing you kind of play with it. Some of you are moving around and you can see the difference right away. I love natural lighting. So I have a window right in front of me, but I will tell you that you have to be careful, right? So the other day I had a meeting that was around sunset time and that light was shining in on me so strongly that I was squinting. It was terrible. So be aware, and Peggy brought this up right away, of the timing of when you're doing this and all of the different facets of this. We think this is so easy. We're just going to show up, right? But we need to think ahead for all of these things so you can have the best image. So I have some more questions that I would like to ask Peggy, but before I do, I just want to let you know, we can take your questions. So if anyone, let's see, I think we have a few here. What do you recommend, fluorescent or incandescent bulbs, Peggy?
You know, I think you have to play around with them and you have to try. Go out and set yourself up into a Zoom meeting. That's one way. Call a friend up and play around. You can do it together. That person can try things and you can try things. Look at the different lighting in your room. I think that what I find as we keep reiterating, time of day plays a factor. So at some times of the day, the lighting is great. Sometimes my room looks wonderful, and other times I might have the lighting in front of me just like I like it, but because of what's going on, the back of my room might look yellow depending on where the sun is and the angle. So I really suggest that you play around and try it.
Great. And Marjorie, you said that you have a light that you really like.
Yeah, I'll just unmute real quick. I'm going to do what Peggy did. I'm just going to flip this computer on. It's pretty bright, but it's a PXL. It's a standing light.
Yeah, I have that same one, Marjorie.
It's great. And
it's the one behind my computer.
It goes super bright. This is ridiculously too bright, but then you can adjust it. So it is a little on the pricier side. It's about 150 something. But
they come in, Marjorie, they come in every price range, even for the ones that stand. You can get them less or more, and read the description. Some of them give you more light. Some of them have more options on different lighting tones. So see what you want. So your price point is important, or even its capabilities are impacted. But thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. That was great. And it is nice to know that you do have options. And Peggy's might have started at 30. I will tell you that I got one for like $19.99. So there are whatever options that you want to come up with. Okay. Let's see. We've got a couple of other questions here. Elizabeth is letting you know that we're going to send a follow-up with some suggestions too. How do you add the picture if you don't wait to use video? Do you mean when you come on the bottom where it says the video option, the stop video, if you hover your mouse over that, or was this a different question? I apologize, Lisa. If you would like to unmute and ask your question with a little bit more details, you're welcome to do that.
Hi. Instead of using the video in place of my name, how do you add the photo like Helena has done?
Oh, okay. Peggy, do you want to take that one?
I will tell you that I think there's a drop-down option to do it, and you can add it. Some of us, I know for me, because of, I guess, whatever's out there on mass media from my website and whatever, my video just showed up. I didn't have to do it, but you can. There is a drop-down menu, and you can add a video. You can add a photo.
Okay.
Yeah, there's.
Can I add
when you
something,
go to
please?
in the settings. Sorry, Helena, are you sharing?
Oh, yes. I just wanted to share, you can add, or the way I added my photo was in the settings. Just go into your Zoom and you can add your photo there, and it naturally, when you stop the video, it'll put it there. However, it also depends on how you log in to every Zoom call. Even if you have your picture there, sometimes it will just show your name. And that's on the settings of, again, how you log in. If you use, for example, the login for the Chrome extension, it will just add your name. And also there is a setting on the host that enables everyone to show their picture if they have their picture, or simply to show their name. And that is for security's sake, because some people at the beginning were posting just, let's say, unwanted pictures. So that came up as a setting later. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That's really helpful, Helena. We did have another question about cleaning your camera lens. This is important to, some people are like, wait a minute, why is mine just kind of foggy looking? So you can actually use these, what you use maybe to clean your glasses. You can use that to clean your lens. Did you have some additional suggestions, Peggy, on that?
No, I think that's very important. Make sure that's, again, what you're looking at when you check every day, because you might have touched that lens and gotten a smudge on it. So you do want to check that. And you're right. Just, you want to use something very safe that would clean any kind of camera lens or your glasses. If it's safe for your glasses or your camera lens, it's safe for the computer camera.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think that those are the questions that we had right now, but I do encourage you to continue asking. Oh, we got one more. Great. So, I love this, because here's the thing that I love about a meeting versus a webinar is that we have the opportunity to interact and share best practices that all of you have as well, like when Marjorie showed her lamp and when Helena gave her suggestions as well. This is important. So thank you for doing that very much. Peggy, I'm going to go back to a couple of my questions here, if you don't mind.
Please.
So what are the key attributes of effective communication that we can focus on that are specific to virtual calls?
Okay. Well, I think that one, and I guess I'll go to why I said turn on your camera. When we call, and why Zoom has become so popular, is because we connect with people both visually and auditorily. If you're on the phone, you've lost one of those aspects of communication. And so you're not able to basically even understand them as well. We know that when we're talking on the phone, sometimes you misunderstand people, sometimes you can't hear them as well. One of the reasons is that we actually listen with our eyes and our ears. So we're reading somebody's lips. Think about the fact that you pay so much money to have a good down front theater seat when we could go to the theater. And why? Because it wasn't that you couldn't hear. The sound in that theater was good. Probably in the back row, you could probably hear but you really said you couldn't understand because you weren't being able to see their mouth. And there's so many things about how we talk that visually we do depend on in some way reading people's lips. It helps us. That's number one. Number two, we are all more of visual or kinesthetic learners than we are auditory learners. So what we really need to know is that people see our nonverbal communication. They also see us, our posture, our enthusiasm, our presence, and that oftentimes helps them remember what we say. So when we think about them, we think about, oh, she had a smile on her face, or she was really engaged. And that will help you remember what they say. And then some of the things that apply, whether it's on Zoom or not, is speak slowly and speak in short sentences. Again, our brains have difficulty holding a lot of information and remembering it. We process shorter sentences better. When we're verbally communicating, we're not writing the great American novel. We are talking, so you want people to hear and remember. And that goes to the rule of three. Does anyone know what the rule of three is?
There are many.
Okay, interestingly, our brains have the ability to hold three pieces of information at any one time that come together. So if you tell somebody 5 reasons about why they should do something, what's going to happen is they're going to hear 1, they're going to hear 2, they're going to hear 3, and when you tell them 4, they're going to forget 1, 2, and 3 and don't remember anything else. So if you're doing an interview and they ask you about, tell 3 things, you can keep changing it, but tell 3. If you're talking about, if you're in a meeting, why something should be done, don't give more than 3 examples. People aren't going to be able to remember. And on a Zoom call, it's more difficult to ask, to interrupt, to have that conversation that you can do when you're having a face-to-face meeting.
Peggy, these are fantastic tips. I know that people are plugging in that they have, that they're loving the tips that you're suggesting. I just have to add my 2 cents about the second one because I'm such a fanatic about energy. And I think that it's even more important in this platform to energize yourself before getting on, because that comes across. People can feel you through the screen. And if they can't feel you, it's because you're not giving your energy. And there is such a difference, whether it's in your, your visual connection and it can be posture related, but it's not even that. It's just this element of the energy that's within you that's positive, that comes across when you're excited about something. And sometimes you're not excited about the topic. And so you have to create that excitement within you so that you come across in that way. Now, we do have some questions here, so I want to make sure that we get to them. I know that Laura had one where she was asking about hand gestures on a Zoom meeting. Do you have any recommendations about hand gestures, Peggy?
I sure do. I'm one that always speaks with my hands. So on the one hand, I think it's important, or it's okay to use hand gestures. Let's begin with what Heather said about that posture and the energy. If I'm sitting like this using my hands, you know that I'm sending you a message that you don't want the other person to hear. But that being said, let's think of the positive. One of the things we know about Zoom is the refresh rate is different than if you're on a TV where the TV cameras or the movie cameras are doing. So you can't do a lot of fast movement because you'll give everybody seasickness. That being said, if you want to make a point and you want to do 1, 2, 3, the visual of my fingers will help you remember what I'm saying. And it's not dizzying. If I do 1, 2, 3, it gets lost. Or if I'm moving my hands around like this, which when I speak in person, I do, and it's okay. My advice is when I speak on Zoom, I oftentimes put my hands on my lap. I hold my hands so that I'm aware of kind of grounding myself and making sure that I don't do that. Or if I really need to use my hands, I can use them under the desk and I won't make you all dizzy. So I do it. And yet sometimes I think a few hand gestures are important. They help you get your point across, and that's important. But remember we've got this limited real estate here that you can see. So if I say 1, 2, you can't see them. So remember, you have to keep your hands up higher on a Zoom call than would be normal. If I say, well, on the one hand, on the other hand, if I do it now here, on the one hand, on the other hand, you didn't see me. So you need to think about it. Again, let's, run the videotape. I said practice, see what it looks like. And also remember, when you're practicing by yourself, you have more real estate. So you might see something. So it might mean practice with a friend so that you can see what it's more likely to look like with somebody else. Being prepared and practicing goes to being very important.
Oh, Peggy, this is great. These are wonderful ones. Now, I see in here a really fascinating question. So I'm going to ask Wayne to unmute because he's saying that he has the 600-pound question, and I want to know what that means. Can you explain to us, Wayne?
Absolutely. Peggy, this is so helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm willing to bet a paycheck that everybody on here is pretty much living and breathing Zoom calls for pretty much the majority of their day right now. So, and we know pretty much the etiquette and their whole 9 yards of how we sit up straight, get your lighting together. I went and invested in one of these things. It's really not as good as Marjorie's, but I'm telling you, it makes a world of difference in this room. Here's my problem. I've got back to back meetings. I got to take a peek at my email because I'm preparing for a 1 o'clock meeting right now. I want to throw up a few slides. I want to make sure that I've got them pretty much lined up and everything so I don't show up, some joke someone sent me and I'm sharing it. So I don't know how to manage it. I know what I should do and what I should not do, but I don't have time to prep for the next meeting. It's got a hard stop at 1 o'clock and I've got to be prepared for it. If I don't take a peek, is there an email that's coming through that's pertinent to that or what have you? And I'm really having a heck of a time trying to manage my day with back-to-back meetings constantly and still proper etiquette and being in the present and being able to be prepared. So I have some suggestions on how to do that. I'd really appreciate it.
I'm going to go to you first, Peggy, and then I have a couple thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, that is the 600-pound question, and I do think that we all struggle with it. I would say one thing, if at all possible, I suggest to everyone that I work with to try to leave at least a few minutes between calls. So even if either you leave this call 5 minutes early, which sometimes, if you're on this kind of a meeting, you may feel that it's okay to do, and it definitely is, and you don't have to excuse yourself. So, but I think we all need to hydrate ourselves. You need to have some water or something. You need to maybe use the bathroom, maybe have something to eat. You need to take, to do a 1 o'clock and then a 2 o'clock and then a 3 o'clock, you have done this to yourself. So that's my first thing. The second one is if you are, if you have slides that you want to do, basically the first thing in the morning, make your list and open up those PowerPoints so you know which ones they are, and so you have a list with that. So everything is kind of set up so you don't have to, in between calls, worry about checking that. Now, checking email comes in. if you're expecting something, you're going to have to do it. Depending on the call, either you'll have to waiting between calls, or if it's something that you have to take in a group like this, you could put yourself, just go offline and turn off the camera for a couple of minutes. Just like if you were on this call and your phone rang and you were expecting an important call, you would probably just put on your video. I mean, take yourself off a video while you took the call, because even though you were on mute, you don't want to be talking. And I say that I see too many people when they have to take a call, they mute themselves, and what they do to me, they get up and leave the room. All right, because they don't want to. Well, what do I do now? I'm looking at this blank screen. That's almost distracting. We should talk a little bit about background, Heather. We didn't get into that. It's very distracting. So it would be better for me to just see either Wayne Robinson or a picture of Wayne Robinson when you had to do that. Heather, do you have any other suggestions?
Well, I loved what you were talking about. And one of the things, and you did actually speak to it already, but that is that preparation ahead of time for me, because I'm like you, Wayne, in that where I do that back-to-back thing. So in the morning, I prep for all of my calls during the day before I start any of my calls, because invariably somebody's going to want to talk a little bit longer and kind of cut me right to that point. I also, and I'm sure you have the capability of doing this, not everyone may have the capability of doing this, but I set up my time constraints with people when I begin my calls. And I'll say, just to let you know, I have a hard stop at 1 o'clock, but I'm going to focus completely with you and on you during this time. And so I set it up so that they know that there's an ending time. And so there's that respect for everyone, and I'm not cutting them off, but then I give them my undivided attention while I am there. That's really important, because we know when somebody is surreptitiously kind of looking down and texting somebody else and they're pretending that they're looking at you, we're on to you. So, so that preparation ahead of time, and you've already spoken to that. And I don't know if anyone noticed it, but while Peggy was talking, I had a glitch. Right. So somebody may have noticed that I turned into the Hulk or something. Right. I turned.
Yes, you did. I saw that.
Okay. Yeah. So I have to put it out there, because we need to be prepared now for so many unforeseen things. Right. Our internet goes down. Something happens. Somebody calls. The kids are in the background. You turn green, whatever it may be. So if you can add meditation or the ability to just be able to go with the flow and stay calm, whatever it's going to take for you, be prepared, because weird things happen, right? So just wanted to add that in. We've got some other questions, but Peggy, make sure we do go back to that while I'm scrolling for the questions. Maybe you can address the background.
Yes, I think it's really important. We didn't get to that. What's in your background is important. Now, some people are using virtual backgrounds, and that I don't use it, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. There are, like everything else, there's ups and downs to them. I was listening to a tech guy the other day who actually told me that one of the reasons is beyond our control, and that's got to do with things that are coming in and the capabilities through the internet that we don't even have, that sometimes prevents us from having as an effective result with a virtual background. That being said, if you don't have a good background that you feel that you want people to see, and you want it to be relatively simple, relatively clean, find yourself a white wall or something and angle your camera so that there's the less distractions. What's most important is that I don't look at something else. Don't have a ceiling fan whirling over your head, because I'm going to look at that fan and I'm not going to look at you. Or, and if a natural distraction happens, like the cat comes in and jumps on the shelf, well, you can't control it. Yeah. But, that being said, on the basis, try to have things as clean and simple, and mostly because they're distracting. I love to tell the story that I was on a call where it was like I was like all of you, I was just a participant, and I was totally distracted the whole time because the person who was leading the call was sitting in front of an open closet door, and you could see her clothes hanging. Now you could see it was a white door. You could see that the door was like half open. All she had to do was pay attention. If she had checked her screen before, she would have seen that she forgot to close her closet door. Closed it, she would add a nice clear background. Open, I was more interested in, why did she leave it open? Oh, what's hanging there? So backgrounds are important.
Yeah, that is so true. We've got some great questions and comments. I just want to let you know, Peggy, people are finding value in that. That's good to know. We had, Sabrina said that she is still struggling with finding when she went to the video settings, how to upload the picture. So I'm going to put this out there. Sabrina and anyone else who would like that, Peggy, do you think that we can write that up in the instructions and send it in our follow-up? Would we be able to do that? I know that.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, we're going to write up how to, and I will get that to Elizabeth, how to upload
Perfect.
picture.
So everyone will be able to have that. That's fantastic. Wayne, they liked your question as well. Oh, and Helena actually sent, thank you, Helena. You just responded to her as well. That's great. Couple of other questions here. Can you suggest a Zoom tutorial that explains the basics? Do you know of one that you like in particular?
What I have found that if you're looking for a specific, whatever you want to do, including how to upload your picture, if you just type in how to upload your picture on Zoom, it will tell you. And I would, at least the way I learn, to go through an entire Zoom tutorial on everything. By the time I get to the end of the tutorial, I would have forgotten what they said at the beginning. So my advice is pick the one thing that you're trying now, get it, find out what to do, and then pick the next thing. You'll be less overwhelmed and more likely to have mastered and feel comfortable with that before you move forward. But we will at least go out. I'll go out and see what the directions are so we can get you all to be able to upload your picture.
And I'm sure you probably all already know this, but because we've got some great responses here, Helena and some other people have posted in some suggestions for people. You want to save the chat. If you don't know how to save the chat, when you go into the chat area where you could type in a question, over to the right of that, there's a file button and there's 3 little buttons. If you click on that, it enables you to save chat, and then it will download for you into your downloads area. This is important, and you know, I'm sorry if you already know this, but for those of you who don't know this, you know, when you're doing networking and people are putting their LinkedIn profiles in there and you want to be able to connect with them, or somebody shares an article that you want, this is how you're able to save those things easily. Hope that was helpful for you. Peggy, did you have any additional comments for them about resources or anything else?
No, I just, make sure that think about, and I can't stress enough, how do you look and how do you sound? If you were going to be on television, that's what the cameraman would be doing. You would have all this support. And I want to go to your appearance. I know that if think about looking professional, and I keep going to watching all the people that are being interviewed, like on CNN or CBS, it doesn't matter, on any of the news channels. When they're trying to, they're the authority figure, they're the expert, and sharing their expertise. Look at the person and think about how they're dressed and how you value or don't value their advice. Most of them, when they're being interviewed, are talking to you from their homes, just like you are. So if you're going to be on a call with a colleague, even if it's a networking call, you want to don't want to look like you just came from working out in your basement or working in the garden or shoveling the driveway. You want to look like you came, and that's all part of being prepared. No, if you're not the presenter and you're not going on an interview, you don't have to dress up. I tend to dress more just because that's me. You don't have to. Corporate casual, if that's what you're comfortable with, is fine. But think about how you look. Again, what's going to happen? The way we learn is the person, when you get off that call, the first thing they're going to think about is how you looked. Did you look like you had energy? Could they see you on the screen? The lighting? They're going to think about all of those things. And then, and only then, will they think about what you said. So how do you want them to remember you is so important. Because you can just assume that if I came looking like I just finished working out, no matter if I said exactly the same words, you would not put the same value on what I had to say. So I think that is so, so important.
We did have another question from Cecilia, and she was looking for some suggestions for a good microphone or a headset to use. Sound is really, really important, even though we're emphasizing visual because we need that. We don't want that disconnect. Audio is also really important. And if you've ever been on a call with someone, it's really frustrating, right? So I have some ideas. Peggy, did you have some ideas? And anyone else here who loves their headset or microphone, you want to put it into the chat area, that would be fantastic. Go ahead, Peggy.
No, I don't. I am actually, I'm lucky. My computer sound system is good. And so I don't tend to use a headset or something. I would defer to any of you, and I know you said you have something. Why don't you share it, Heather?
This is a snowball. I'm not currently using it at the moment because I'm using my Logitech that has decent audio to go with the video, but I do recordings, podcasts, and things like that. And Snowball is a very reasonably priced for the sound that you get. I believe this was $40, and it has great sound quality. So that's one that I like. Who else has one that they like? Okay, thank you, Wayne. Thank you to everyone who's popping off. I know we're getting close to the end. If you did have a suggestion for headset or anything, please type it in there. Peggy, did you have any final thoughts? Oh, just to let you all know, Elizabeth said that she would send the chat file too, so that you all had that when she sends the follow-up, okay? Peggy, you want to take us out?
Great. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank you for your open, honest interactions and asking questions, because being an interactive program, which is why we requested this be, not a webinar, but just a video call that gives you that opportunity. So this is wonderful. I hope that you have will all leave with some great tips. One of the things I did was I gave a little, I guess it's a summary with some key points and some key information that will hopefully jog your memory as to what I've said, that Elizabeth will include. And along with that, if any of you would like to have a 30-minute conversation with me to find out more about things, please feel free to reach out to me and I will set that up. If not, check out my website. There's lots of blogs or LinkedIn where things that I've written on this topic and other topics related to communication. The most important thing to remember is what I think of as my mantra or motto, and that is, it's more than what you say, it's how you say it. And it's how you say it both verbally, vocally, and non-verbally. And so as we started this, and we'll go full circle, not having your camera on, you're saying something. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but you're saying something, and you're limiting your ability to totally communicate and totally connect Remember, we're talking about building virtual relationships, as we talked about that virtual handshake. When we start a conversation face to face, we usually shake somebody's hand, even if we know them. And oftentimes we do the same at the end of the conversation. So we want to make sure on Zoom, we are building good, strong, positive virtual relationships. And I want to thank Heather for being a great interviewer. It made this so much more fun and interactive. Thank you, Heather. And thank you, Elizabeth, again.